A police dog wouldn't stop barking at a traveler's luggage, drawing puzzled looks from passengers and security alike. But when officers finally opened the bag, what they found sent shockwaves through the entire airport. Here's what happened. But before we continue, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Subscribe to the channel because tomorrow, at the same time, we'll bring you another unforgettable story of heroism and sacrifice from the world's most extraordinary military K-9S. The fluorescent lights cast a harsh glow across Terminal 3 of Chicago O'Hare International Airport as Officer Emma Reynolds adjusted her winter patrol jacket. Her breath was visible in the pre-dawn chill seeping through the automatic doors. Beside her, Atlas, her German Shepherd partner of 4 years, maintained perfect heel position, his dark eyes scanning the steady stream of travelers with practiced intensity. Emma checked her watch, 5:45 a.m. The morning international arrivals would start flooding in soon, bringing with them the controlled chaos she'd grown used to over her 6 years with the airport's K-9 unit. But something felt different about this December morning, a subtle tension in the air that made her skin prickle. "Ready for another day, buddy?" she murmured, reaching down to scratch Atlas's ear. The shepherd leaned into her touch briefly before returning to his alert posture. Emma smiled, remembering the first time she'd met those intelligent eyes at the training facility. Atlas had been different from the other police dogs. Calmer, more focused, with an almost eerie ability to read situations. That sharpness had saved lives more than once. The terminal began filling with early morning travelers, their rolling suitcases creating a rhythmic symphony against the polished floors. Atlas moved with smooth grace between bags and passengers, conducting his routine security sweeps with military precision. Every few minutes he would glance back at Emma, their years of teamwork clear in their silent communication. "Morning, Reynolds," called Officer Mike Dawson from his post near the security checkpoint. Atlas, looking sharp as ever, Emma nodded in greeting, watching Atlas work. The shepherd's black and tan coat gleamed under the terminal lights, his movements smooth despite his large size. They had just passed the luxury retail section when Atlas's behavior changed slightly, a shift so small only Emma would notice. His ears perked forward, nose working overtime as he followed an invisible scent trail. Emma felt her pulse quicken. Years of experience told her to trust her partner's instincts. Atlas had never been wrong, not once in 4 years of service. Among the sea of expensive luggage near the premium airline check-in, Atlas focused on one particular travel trunk, a handmade leather piece that probably cost more than Emma's monthly salary. Its owner, a well-dressed Asian man in his 40s, stood nearby typing on a high-end smartphone while talking quietly into a Bluetooth earpiece. Atlas's posture changed completely. His usual relaxed movements became stiff and alert, tail straight and muscles tight. Emma recognized this body language immediately. This wasn't his normal reaction to banned items or even drugs. This was something different. "Sir," Emma approached the man, keeping her voice professional while moving between him and the nearest exit. "I'm Officer Reynolds with Airport Police. Would you mind stepping over here with your luggage?" The man looked up from his phone, his face showing polite confusion. "Is there a problem, officer?" His English was perfect, his manner polished and confident. The name tag on his expensive trunk read Marcus Chen, with first-class stickers from several international airlines. "Just a routine check, sir." "Your cooperation would be appreciated," Emma said. Chen's eyes moved quickly between her, Atlas, and the terminal exits. Years of training had taught Emma to notice small signs, the slight tightness in his shoulders, how his well-groomed fingers gripped his phone tighter. Atlas's low growl echoed through the terminal, drawing curious looks from passing travelers. This wasn't just alert behavior anymore. This was a warning. Emma had only heard this specific growl twice before in their partnership, and both times it had led to major cases. "My flight to Vancouver leaves in 40 minutes, Chen protested, his calm demeanor showing its first cracks. "I have an important business meeting," Chen protested. "This won't take long if everything's in order," Emma interrupted, noting how he flinched when she said his name. Atlas positioned himself between Chen and his luggage, his training kicking in automatically. The busy morning terminal noise faded into background as Emma keyed her radio. "Control. K97 requesting backup at Premium Check-in, Terminal 3. Possible situation developing." She kept her eyes locked on Chen, who had stopped typing on his phone. His earlier annoyance had been replaced by something darker, more calculating. Atlas's growl grew louder as Chen shifted his weight slightly, preparing to move. Emma had seen that look before, the moment when a suspect decides whether to cooperate or flee. Her hand moved instinctively toward her holster. "Sir, please remain where you are," she commanded. But she could see the decision forming in Chen's eyes, the subtle tensing of his muscles. The terminal seemed to hold its breath as Atlas's warning growl reached its peak. Time seemed to slow as Chen made his choice. In one smooth motion, he threw his phone at Emma's face and ran, pushing a luggage cart into Atlas's path. Emma ducked, the phone missing her by inches as Atlas skillfully dodged the tumbling bags with the agility that made him famous in the K9 unit. "Stop! Airport police!" Emma's voice cut through the terminal chaos as she chased Chen, with Atlas already moving to cut off their suspect. Travelers scattered, some recording with their phones as the pursuit unfolded. Chen's expensive leather shoes clicked rapidly against the polished floor as he dodged through the crowd with surprising agility. "Terminal 3, Gate 7. Suspect fleeing east," Emma radioed, her breathing steady from years of training. "Asian male, charcoal suit, approximately 40 years old." Atlas had already predicted Chen's path, taking a shortcut between airline counters to intercept him. Officer Mike Dawson appeared at the end of the concourse, forcing Chen to suddenly turn toward the maintenance corridors. That's when Emma noticed something chilling. Chen had activated something on a small device in his hand just before running. "Possible remote activation device," she updated dispatch, following Atlas through the service door. The fluorescent lights flickered in the narrow hallway. The harsh fluorescent lights cast flickering shadows as they chased their target through the maintenance tunnels. The temperature plunged dramatically, their breath forming visible clouds in the suddenly frigid air. Atlas's sharp bark reverberated off the concrete walls, his special alert telling Emma they were closing in. The echo hadn't even faded when a tower of plastic storage bins came crashing down behind them, cutting off their retreat. Chen had clearly been preparing for this moment during his brief head start. "You really should have just let me leave, Officer Reynolds." Chen's disembodied voice bounced eerily off the walls, making it impossible to locate him. "Some questions are better left unasked." The distant thunder of jet engines vibrated through the structure, adding to the disorienting acoustics. Emma advanced cautiously with Atlas at her side, both scanning the shadowy space for movement. "Mr. Chen, you're only making this worse for yourself," she called out, hearing backup teams securing the perimeter exits. "Whatever you're involved in, we can work this out." Chen's mocking laugh echoed through the corridor. "Work it out? Like Officer Reeves wanted to work it out 3 months ago in Seattle?" The name struck Emma like a punch to the gut. Karen Reeves, a fellow K9 handler who'd been critically injured during what was supposed to be a routine baggage inspection. The case had been immediately classified, all details sealed. Atlas's ears suddenly shot up, his head snapping toward a utility room. Emma approached carefully, weapon ready. The door stood slightly ajar, frigid air seeping out into the already cold hallway. Inside, Chen's luxury travel trunk sat conspicuously in the center of the room, its latches now pulsing with an eerie blue light. Fascinating creatures, police dogs, Chen's voice drifted from the shadows. Such loyalty, such incredible noses. Did you never wonder why Atlas reacts differently to certain packages? Emma's flashlight beam cut through the darkness, revealing empty chemical shelves and abandoned maintenance equipment. Atlas's growl intensified, no longer tracking but warning. That trunk was dangerously wrong. Terminal 3 Maintenance Sector C, Emma radioed urgently, requesting hazmat and EOD teams immediately. Possible CBR threat. Suddenly she understood Atlas's unusual reaction upstairs. This wasn't standard contraband. Chen had been transporting something far more deadly. Smart girl, Chen murmured as he emerged from behind a large electrical panel, his expensive suit now smudged with grease, his polished demeanor cracking to reveal something much darker beneath. Chen's previously polished executive demeanor had completely vanished, replaced by something far more dangerous. "But you're too late, Officer Reynolds," he spat, his voice dripping with venom. "The countdown started the moment I triggered the failsafe. Now you face an impossible choice: chase me or contain that trunk. You can't possibly do both." As if responding to his threat, the trunk's latches began pulsing faster, their eerie blue glow accelerating like a racing heartbeat. A sinister hissing sound emerged, barely audible beneath the constant hum of the airport's ventilation systems. Atlas's barking took on a new urgency as he physically pressed against Emma's legs, using his body to push her back from the doorway, behavior she'd only seen during their most intense chemical detection drills. The sound of pounding footsteps and crackling radio static told Emma backup was mere seconds away. Chin smirked, pulling a compact oxygen mask from his inner jacket pocket with theatrical slowness. "Your clever dog already knows what's inside that case," Chen taunted, his fingers playing with the mask's straps. "The real question is, are you willing to gamble every life in this terminal that you can stop both me and whatever's about to emerge from that trunk?" Emma's mind raced through 6 years of K-9 training scenarios, but nothing had prepared her for this moment of impossible choices. She looked down at Atlas, who met her gaze with unwavering focus, his complete trust in her judgment evident even as the danger escalated around them. The trunk's hissing grew louder, more insistent. "Atlas, guard!" The command had barely left her lips when her partner launched himself at Chen with breathtaking precision. The oxygen mask went spinning across the floor as 85 pounds of pure muscle took the suspect down in a textbook takedown. Atlas's powerful jaws closed around Chen's forearm with exactly the right pressure, enough to immobilize but carefully measured to avoid serious injury. Emma didn't waste a second, rushing to the pulsating trunk. Up close, she could see this was no ordinary piece of luggage. Its walls were lined with some advanced containment system, and what looked like a sophisticated pressure regulation unit was built directly into the frame. The latches were clearly connected to a digital timer that was counting down with terrifying speed. "Control. Suspect secured, but need hazmat team here immediately," she shouted into her radio, her voice tight with urgency. "Atlas is showing full chemical detection behavior. We have a possible airborne threat in progress." The cavalry arrived in a wave of tactical gear and flashing emergency lights just as Chen's smug expression finally cracked. As SWAT officers roughly secured his hands behind his back, Emma caught the genuine surprise in his eyes. He hadn't expected her to neutralize both threats simultaneously. What his cold calculations had failed to account for was the unbreakable partnership between Handler and K-9. the kind of bond that could split an impossible situation and conquer both halves. The seamless teamwork that made such decisions instinctive, but as the hazmat team rushed in with their sensors and containment gear, Emma knew this was just the beginning. Chen's words about Officer Reeves and Atlas's unique reactions hinted at something much bigger than a single smuggling attempt. Whatever was in that trunk was going to change everything. She could feel it in her bones. Atlas returned to her side, alert but calm now that the immediate threat was contained. Emma scratched his ears, noticing how the tactical team gave him a wide berth out of respect. "Good boy," she whispered. "But I have a feeling our day is just getting started." The hazmat team's sensors started screaming. 3 hours later, Emma sat in the airport's secure briefing room, watching Atlas rest beside her chair. His dark eyes occasionally tracked the movement of Homeland Security agents and CDC officials who hurried in and out. Their hushed conversations carried an edge of barely controlled panic. The contents of Chen's trunk had triggered every hazardous material alarm in the hazmat team's arsenal, but it was Atlas's specific reaction that had everyone worried. As another group of suited officials rushed past, Emma's mind drifted back to the day she'd first met Atlas. 2 years after the incident that had nearly ended her career, the Kentucky K-9 training facility had been sweltering that August morning, the air thick with humidity and the sound of barking dogs. Emma hadn't wanted to be there. Her supervisor had practically ordered her to consider a new partner after 18 months of working desk duty. "Reynolds," Sergeant Maria Torres had insisted, leading her to a separate kennel area. "He's different, rescued from a bad situation, but his detection abilities are off the charts. Problem is, he won't work with just anyone." Emma had been ready to refuse. The memory of her previous partner's death was still too raw. Officer James Mitchell had been more than just her partner. He'd been her mentor, the one who taught her everything about K-9 handling. The raid that killed him had left her with both physical and emotional scars, including a long scar along her left ribs that still ached in cold weather. But then she'd seen those eyes. Atlas, still unnamed at the time, had watched her with an intelligence that seemed almost human. Unlike the other dogs who barked and jumped, he'd simply studied his head tilted slightly as if reading her soul. "Found him in a raid on an illegal testing facility," Torres had explained softly. Someone had been experimenting with enhancing K-9 olfactory capabilities. Most of the dogs didn't survive the procedures, but this boy, she paused, shaking her head. "He can detect things other dogs can't, things our best equipment sometimes misses, but the trauma left him unable to trust easily." Emma remembered kneeling, despite her protesting muscles, meeting that steady gaze. Atlas had approached cautiously, his own scars visible beneath his fur, when he'd finally pressed his head against her hand. Torres had gasped. "That's the first time he's approached anyone voluntarily," she'd whispered. "I think he recognizes something in you, Reynolds. Sometimes the deepest wounds create the strongest bonds." A gentle nudge against her leg brought Emma back to the present. Atlas had sensed her distress at the memory, offering comfort as he always did. She smiled, remembering how they'd healed each other over the years that followed. "Officer Reynolds?" A CDC official approached, his badge identifying him as Dr. Harris. "We need to talk about your partner's reaction to the substance we found." He sat down across from her, his expression grave. "Have you ever seen him alert like that before?" Emma straightened in her chair. "Twice," she confirmed. "Once at a cargo facility in Detroit, but the shipment disappeared before we could investigate. The second time was—" She paused, her throat tightening. The second time was the day Officer Reeves was hospitalized in Seattle. Dr. Harris leaned forward. "Tell me about Seattle." "It was a routine assistance call," Emma recalled. Karen, Officer Reeves, had requested Atlas specifically. Her own K-9 had alerted to something in a diplomatic shipment, but they needed confirmation before they could breach international protocols. Atlas reacted the same way he did today, trying to push us back from the container. Before we could secure the area, there was some kind of pressure release. Karen was closest. She swallowed hard. She survived, but she's still in long-term care. The case was classified immediately. And you never questioned why they specifically requested Atlas. Emma met his gaze steadily. Atlas's background isn't exactly secret in K-9 circles. Some handlers call him the miracle dog because of his unusual detection abilities after what he survived in that testing facility. That testing facility, Dr. Harris interrupted, is exactly why we're here. He placed a file on the table. What your partner detected today wasn't just any chemical weapon. It was something engineered to be undetectable by standard methods. Something that only a dog with enhanced olfactory capabilities could smell. He paused significantly. Something like what they were trying to create in the facility where Atlas was found. The implications hit Emma like a physical blow. Atlas pressed against her leg, grounding her as the pieces started falling into place. The diplomatic shipments, Karen's classified case, specific comments about Atlas's abilities. "They're weaponizing the research," she breathed. "The same people who—" She looked down at Atlas, at the scars hidden beneath his fur, and felt a surge of protective rage. "How high up does this go?" Dr. Harris's expression was grim. "That's what we need to find out. And right now, your partner is our best chance at tracking these shipments. The question is, are you prepared for what that means? These people have already shown they'll do anything to protect their operation." Emma felt Atlas's solid presence beside her, remembered the trust in his eyes that first day at the training facility. They both survived. Attempts to break them had forged something stronger from their shared pain. Now they had a chance to stop the people responsible, not just for Karen's injury, but for all the dogs who hadn't survived that testing facility. "When do we start?" she asked, her hand resting on Atlas's head. A commotion outside the briefing room interrupted Dr. Harris's response. Agent Torres, now with Homeland Security, burst in, her face pale. "We've got a problem," she announced. "Chen's diplomatic credentials just cleared. His people are here to take him into custody, claiming diplomatic immunity." She met Emma's eyes. "And they're demanding the return of their property." Atlas's low growl echoed through the room. The underground parking level of O'Hare's Terminal 3 echoed with footsteps as Emma and Atlas took position behind a concrete pillar. Above them, the diplomatic security team was preparing to transport Chen and his diplomatic cargo, a move that would erase any chance of exposing the operation. "All units in position," crackled Emma's earpiece. Dr. Harris and Agent Torres had worked quickly, coordinating with trusted FBI units to set up an intercept. They had one chance to prevent Chen's extraction, but the risk was enormous. One wrong move could trigger an international incident. Emma checked her tactical vest, then looked at Atlas. His eyes were fixed on the service elevator, the only way up from this level. They'd been through countless operations together, but never with stakes this high. "Target descending," came the alert. "Four-man security detail, 2 diplomatic officials. Chen is wearing a suit with biohazard protection underneath. They're moving the trunk separately." Emma felt her scar twinge in the garage's cold air, remembering another underground confrontation that had ended in tragedy. As if sensing her thoughts, Atlas pressed briefly against her leg. their private signal that he had her back. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime that seemed impossibly loud in the tense silence. Chen emerged first, flanked by men whose expensive suits couldn't quite hide their military bearing. Behind them, two more agents wheeled the trunk on a specialized cart, its latches now dark, inactive. "Atlas, find," Emma whispered. It was a variation of their training command, one they'd developed over years of partnership. Atlas began moving silently through the shadows, using the parked vehicles as cover while Emma maintained visual on the group. Chen was speaking rapidly in Mandarin to one of the officials, his confidence fully restored now that he believed himself protected by diplomatic immunity. That's when Atlas gave the signal, a specific head tilt that told Emma he'd found something. "Control, K9 unit confirms additional devices in their vehicle." "Same signature as the trunk," Emma said softly into her radio. "Copy that," Agent Torres responded. "That's our probable cause. All units, prepare to move on my mark." Emma watched as the group approached their waiting convoy, three black SUVs with diplomatic plates. They were almost to the vehicles when Atlas's head snapped toward the trunk. Emma had learned to trust those instincts without question. "The trunk's reactivating," she shouted into her radio. "All units, chemical threat active." Everything happened at once. The security team reached for weapons as FBI teams emerged from cover. Chen lunged for the trunk's control panel while his diplomatic escort shouted about international law and sovereignty. But Emma's focus was entirely on Atlas, who had already launched into action with incredible precision. Atlas targeted the handler pushing the trunk's cart, knocking him away from the device without seriously injuring him. Emma moved simultaneously, using the distraction to tackle Chen before he could reach the controls. Years of training with Atlas made them an almost supernatural team, each anticipating the other's moves. "Everybody down." Dr. Harris's voice boomed through the garage as a hazmat team rushed in. "Chemical containment protocols in effect." Chen struggled beneath Emma's grip, his carefully cultivated poise shattered. "You have no idea what you're interrupting. You're trying to advance human potential by torturing dogs?" Emma tightened her hold as Atlas kept the other security members at bay. "By experimenting on innocent animals until you found one that survived? By turning that research into weapons?" "That dog," Chen spat, glaring at Atlas with venom in his eyes, "is living proof that our methods work. Enhanced senses, increased intelligence. Imagine transplanting those capabilities into human subjects." His voice carried a fanatical edge that made Emma's skin crawl. The white-hot rage Emma felt at his words must have shown in her face, because Chen actually flinched back against her grip. "Atlas," she called, her voice rock-steady despite the fury coursing through her veins. "Guard." Atlas immediately took up a defensive position watching Chen, his muscular frame poised for action, allowing Emma to assist with securing the other suspects. The hazmat team in their bulky containment suits had already sealed the trunk, the containment unit's lights blinking green to indicate whatever deadly release Chen had tried to trigger had been prevented. "Officer Reynolds." Agent Torres approached at a jog, her face a mask of grim satisfaction. "We just got the verification. Those diplomatic credentials came back flagged through Interpol. They're expert-level forgeries, high quality enough to pass initial inspection, but definitely fake. Chen and his entire team are being taken into federal custody as we speak." Double asterisk. Emma nodded curtly, watching as Chen was roughly led away in handcuffs. His arrogant smirk finally wiped away as his dreams of diplomatic immunity evaporated into the garage's fluorescent lighting. Atlas returned to her side, his warm body pressing against her leg, and she knelt in the concrete dust to check him over with practiced hands, remembering all he'd endured and survived to reach this moment. "Good boy," she whispered hoarsely, pressing her forehead to his as her fingers traced the familiar scars beneath his fur. Around them, a swarm of federal agents in tactical gear coordinated with international authorities, their radios crackling with cross-border communications. The conspiracy Chen had helped expose was beginning to unravel, but for Emma, the most important victory was the one standing right beside her, proof that sometimes the deepest wounds really did create the strongest bonds. 1 month after Chen's arrest, Emma stood at her usual post in Terminal 3, watching the morning sun stream through the massive windows. Atlas sat alertly beside her, his new commendation medal catching the light. The events of that December morning had changed airport security protocols across the country, but for Emma, the biggest changes were more personal. The investigation had uncovered a network spanning 3 continents, leading to the liberation of dozens of dogs from testing facilities similar to the one where Atlas had been found. Karen Reeves had wept when Emma visited her in recovery, sharing the news that the people responsible for her injuries were finally facing justice. "You've got quite a partner there," Dr. Harris had said during the final briefing, watching Atlas charm the entire federal task force despite his fierce reputation. His enhanced abilities may have been forced on him through cruel experiments, but what he chose to do with those abilities, that's all him. And you. Emma smiled now, remembering the ceremony where Atlas had received his commendation. He'd remained perfectly composed as the chief of police attached the medal, but his tail had started wagging the moment Emma knelt to hug him. Some bonds went beyond training, beyond duty, beyond even the incredible capabilities science could enhance. A young girl approached cautiously, her mother hovering nearby. "Can I pet him?" she asked, eyes wide with admiration. Emma looked at Atlas, who was already gently wagging his tail. "Of course," Emma replied, watching as Atlas delicately accepted the child's attention. Looking at him now, few would guess the trauma in his past or the sophisticated biological modifications that made him unique among canines. What showed instead was his heart, his choice to use his abilities to protect, to serve, to forge a partnership that had helped bring down an international conspiracy. "He's a hero," the girl declared solemnly, making Emma smile. "Yes, he is," she agreed, scratching Atlas's ears. "But more importantly, he's my partner." Atlas looked up at her with those intelligent eyes, and Emma felt that familiar surge of gratitude. Sometimes, the most extraordinary partnerships emerged from the darkest circumstances, and the strongest heroes were the ones who chose to rise above their trauma to protect others. Together, they turned back to their duty, watching over the morning crowds. Just another day for the K-9 unit. But then again, with Atlas by her side, no day was ever really ordinary. What would you do if you discovered your pet had special abilities? How far would you go to protect them from people who might want to exploit those abilities? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever witnessed the incredible bond between a K-9 and their handler? Tell us about your experience. We'd love to hear your stories. If you were moved by Atlas and Emma's story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss another incredible K-9 tale. Share this video with anyone who believes in the extraordinary bond between humans and dogs. Check out our previous K-9 stories appearing on your screen now. Remember, every dog has a story, but some change the world. Stay tuned for more amazing stories coming your way.